All right, we're going to get started. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm the VP of Marketing at MarcomCentral. Our main host today is going to be John Genovese. He's our Fusion Pro Sales Manager. He's been using and selling the Fusion Pro software for numbers of years and is an expert on the subject. So today's webinar with the power of document automation is going to be covered. John's going to go in depth into that. And I just wanted to give a couple of reminders real quick before we get started. The first being is that this is recorded. So for all of you who want to revisit any of the items shared today, you're going to have that opportunity. We'll send this out to everyone who registered, and you're more than happy to pass that along to anybody on your team or a colleague. And then the second is on the dashboard in GoToMeeting, you should be able to see a section that has questions. So you can ask those questions throughout the webinar. I'll be monitoring those, and we'll make sure that after the presentation is over, we'll answer all the questions that appear there. So again, if you have any questions, fill those out at any time. But with that said, I'm going to pass the time over now to John, and he's going to take control for the rest of the webinar. Here you go, John.
Well, thank you, Matt. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the power of automation, document automation to be specific. For some, there's going to be a little bit of review, but just in case there's some new users on here, we're going to cover a little bit about the product line. But then we'll get to the application pretty quick. Okay, so the Fusion Pro Suite is comprised of desktop applications, and it has components that are production related. So, for example, a high volume print component such as Fusion Pro Producer, or high volume print along with automation in Fusion Pro Server. And we're going to cover all of these today. So what is Fusion Pro? Well, it's a personalized documents design and composition tool, used specifically for automating the process of personalized documents. They can take a lot of different forms, as you'll see. Fusion Pro Creator and Designer are the template builder. They're plugins to Adobe InDesign. They live at the desktop. Fusion Pro Creator has the ability to do low volume work. So, a few thousand records, pretty easily done at the desktop level. As I mentioned before, we have desktop versions for short runs, and we have production versions for the heavy volume type of stuff. What is heavy volume? If you're doing every once in a while, you're doing a document that's 20, 30,000 records, you may get away with Fusion Pro Creator, if you have time to allow it to get the job done. But if you're doing several of those a day, you're starting to get into the higher volumes where you may want something that's a little heavier duty. And that goes up through millions and millions of records per hour. We have solutions out there and people out there doing that kind of volume within the Fusion Pro world. As I mentioned, Fusion Pro lives directly in Acrobat, but there's also a helper component that lives in InDesign. So you can create your document in InDesign, tag the variable areas, or actually put them in by surrounding a word with brackets. And when you export that into Acrobat, that area will be variable so that you can do what you need to do. We have no coding methods, rule systems that are very easy to use, but we also have the ability to program in JavaScript when you need to do something a little more complicated. So you get the best of both worlds. Most of the time, there's no coding involved, but when you need something that's very specific, sometimes you need to take advantage of that. And we have folks, here that do professional services, and we have some consultants that work with us as well to help you through those times. Fusion Pro utilizes the genuine PDF library from Adobe. So we are a true Adobe workflow, and we output multiple languages, PDF, PostScript, two most common, PDF VT, which is one of the newest languages, and then a whole host of caching languages such as PPML and VPS and etc. So depending on the front end that you have, you would pick the appropriate language. Now, this is a very short list of applications because, the reality is the things that we do are all over the board. Personalized documents take a lot of forms. It could be the cover of a magazine. It might be the entire magazine. It could be a catalog. It could be a lot of different things. Right? It's just the fact that it's personalized. That's what brings it into our world. Now we're going to talk a little bit about document automation. What is it? So this is straight up out of Wikipedia. Document automation is the design of systems and workflows that assist in the creation of electronic documents. Well, that's exactly what Fusion Pro does. It includes logic-based systems that are used to segment and segments of pre-existing text and all the different associated graphics and so forth that would go towards a document. It could be that it's multiple documents. Some people get this version of a document, other people get that version of a document. In the case of say a financial contract or an insurance policy, right? Automation systems allow companies to minimize data entry, reduce the time spent proofreading, and reduce the risks associated with human error. Many times, the documents that we're outputting have legalese in them, and that legalese may be dependent on your area, your state, whatever. These are things that they're critical that we get them right, and we always do. Right? It's a program. Once it's right, it's right. It doesn't change. So the basic functions are to replace the cumbersome manual filling in of repetitive documents. Again, such as a financial document or an insurance type of document. And today's more advanced document automation systems allow users to create their own data and rules without the need of programming. And that's, as I mentioned before, Fusion Pro. Most of what you'll do, you're not going to require to program. You'll have to create a rule, but the rule is all wizard. Pick the field, pick the file, that kind of thing. Now, we have a couple of highlighted use cases here. There are many, but we'll go through a few of them. So one is a large supermarket chain. Now, these folks have some 1,200 locations that are constantly getting these little labels that you see right here updated. Virtually every night, they have to do an update to these labels. And this was a pretty ugly job in the past because they'd print a pile of labels and, you pretty much, it was just brutal to go through this thing every single night. So what the smart folks did was they created some programs and a template that allowed them to create the labels in specific to the store. And each store uses their own pricing and so forth and so on because they use regional pricing, but also in aisle layout. So now you take the first sticker, you start down the left side of the aisle, the very top, that's where the first sticker goes. The next sticker goes right next to it. And then down that column and then down to the next column and next column and next column, and then back up the aisle, and you just work your way through the store and you don't have to think about it. You simply put the label on and it'll be in the right order. So, a very, very good application, and by the way, an extremely high volume applications, millions of impressions every hour. It's mind-boggling what these folks are doing. We have a national health insurance company that used to send out a provider directory that kind of covered the whole country. It was expensive to produce and hard to use, very hard to use. With a rework of Fusion Pro template, they were able to create a document that can now be output for a given company or a region. So, if your company uses certain providers in your area, that document can be very specific to you and your company in that area. So again, a great automation of a document that used to be quite cumbersome to do and expensive, I might add. We have a marketing service provider. These folks are associated with auto dealerships, a very specific brand of an auto dealership. And if you are a dealer, you'll come into basically what you used to do is they ship this catalog that had 5,000 different examples, and I mean literally 5,000 different examples of these coupons, and each one was numbered. So you would send an email back that said, well, I want coupon number 123, but instead of offering the oil change with a tire rotation, we're going to offer an oil change with a percentage off of windshield wipers, or, whatever your change is going to be specific to your store. So we went in, took a look at these thousands of different templates, and we were able to get that down to 5 or 6 different styles. And now when the end user comes online, they can pick, a bulleted style. They can pick a no bullet style. There's, like I said, 5 or 6 different styles. They come on, they pick their style. Then they can pick, what offer they want to offer, and then they can fill in any changes. They say proof. It shows them their coupon right on screen. And then they say, go. And with that, the coupon automatically goes into their mailing. As part of the process, they've uploaded a mailing list. Well, they used to have 5 graphic designers that spent their day customizing coupons. These folks have now been able to go into a role where they are producing new and more creative types of marketing programs. So just an absolute win-win, and one, by the way, that's very scalable. They couldn't really grow with the old way without bringing on more people. The new way, they can bring on as many as they want. They don't have to, add more people, add more space for people, etc. Then last but not least, we have a utility company, a very small, actually it wasn't even a utility company as much as it was a city. This particular city did the water. That was the utility for water within the city, and they did the billing for it. And, they used to have a long, drawn-out process where it was, pin-fed sheets that came off of a mainframe. It was very ugly and hard to read, and, took them hours. The new way, they get the data from the database in 15 minutes. The job is on the press and ready to go and mailed out that very same day, and with a much better looking document. And if they want, they could, they don't, but they certainly could put in advertisements, as this document has, in the white space, based on the data. If I see that you like to buy dog food, I can put in an advertisement for some dog related product, just as an example, or maybe you like boating, right? That kind of thing. So, a lot of opportunity to make improvements to the documents that we send out and we see every day. Okay, so now let's jump into the application. So just bear with me. And the first document I'm going to show is a personalized catalog. Okay, so the idea here is that every single recipient is going to get something a little different based on the data that's in the database. This particular one just so happens to be a low volume application, so purely a desktop application. And when at the end of it, when they've got their design done, they uploaded their data and they say compose, the desktop application creates the output, which they can then email or print, just depending on what it is they're going to do with it. But you can see here that this is the first record. So this person has the ball cap and the polo shirt. And you can see here that there's a table of contents that was filled out by the product. This is page 2 and page 3. Then we're back to the next recipient, who is getting just 2 pages, the front and the back. So again, an automated fashion of printing a catalog. The next document is a statement. And we already talked a little bit about this, the fact that you can have, reward programs or other kinds of advertisement within this template. And this template has tables and it has graphics that are swapping in and out. There's a lot going on inside of this. This thing, is pretty much a nightmare to produce without this application. And I might add that in some cases, you got a small bank maybe, or, again, this could even be a utility document. Maybe it's done at the desktop level. But maybe you're doing millions of these things and you need something more at the server level. We've got both ends covered. And what's nice is that no matter which of our products you have, you've got the document right here. This is the document. If it needs to go to server, you simply, check a box and it goes to the server for production. Or you do what's called a collect, which is very similar to a package in InDesign, if you're familiar with that. You're collecting up all the different elements, putting that on Fusion Pro server, and then just allowing the document, or the data rather, to come in and feed the template as it comes, right? But again, at the desktop, we have different people getting different numbers of records. Each recipient is getting something a little bit different. So as you can see, there was 12 pages here for 3 recipients. So this is the first recipient. So they got the front, they've got the, this page with the table on it, and an overflow page. So not everybody gets this page. It's only if you have enough data to call that page in. And then a summary page. And then the next recipient with a different number of records and a summary page. And then last but not least, a different number of records yet. And you could actually have this to where this is 5 or 6 pages long, right? It's what we call an overflow page. So if the records overflow 1 page, it goes to 2, and if it overflows 2, it goes to 3, and so on, right? Now the last one, this one is more towards a high volume, so server likely application. This particular document, there are some 30,000 records, and that would take a bit of doing at the desktop level. So, better done at a server. Now, when I'm saying the server, basically the server is this checkbox right here. I'm telling Fusion Pro not to do the job locally, to do it on a server and to send it to this queue. And a queue is a network location. So when it gets done with the job at the server, it's going to copy it to the network location, and then it's going to send you an email and let you know that it finished with no errors or it finished with errors or whatever the status is, right? It's going to email you and let you know. Now we'll go ahead and send that, and that's going to give us our Acrobat back, okay? The other, when you're doing things at the desktop, Acrobat's tied up while it's going through the composition process. With Fusion Pro Producer, that's really what we're talking about here. When this job goes to Fusion Pro Producer, Acrobat is released. We can go about programming our next job or doing whatever it is that we're doing. Now here's the job on the server. Okay, so it's going to go through those records. By the way, as we're watching the percentage here, 3, that's 3%, 10% or 1% is 300 records. So it's already done 1,200 records now. So, it'll be pretty short order. It'll be done all 30,000 of them. But as another way of automating your workflow or, document automation, you can go into a job that you've done in the past and say, I want to recompose that job. Now, you don't need the template at this point. The template's living on the server. And I'm going to give it a new data file. So the new database, today's database or this week's database. And maybe I'm going to a different imposition. maybe instead of 2 up, this particular printer prints a big sheet, and maybe we're doing 4 up. So I'll load a 4 up in position. A different output format name, a different queue, or potentially, the email address again. And then you would submit that, and that would go back into the running jobs and be right here with this job. So yet another way of automating, your workflow to a point. Now we'll get into a little bit more automation. With this next product, this is Fusion Pro Server. So this product allows you to have a couple of different options here. The first option is a watch system. This is a no programming way of automating a document. So the very first thing you would do is upload the template into here. Now, how do you upload a template? You say collect, that creates a zip file. You take that zip file and you upload it right here. Now, you tell it which of these categories this file goes into, or you can just type a new category and it'll create it for you. You can give the template a name, give it a description, and then say upload. And with that, the document ends up over here on the left side. Now that it's here, you can call it a couple of different ways. The first way is through the watch system. Okay? So the way the watch system works is I have a subdirectory set up, and I've created a condition in here, and we've called it the high volume run condition. So what this is doing is it's looking for a data file to show up in this location right here. Okay, that's what it's looking for. So it's looking for the value to start with HIGH. So any data file that comes in that starts with HIGH, you can see this one's kind of highlighted, but I'll hide it a little bit more. We're going to run the high volume letter whenever that condition is met. Now, to take that a step further, we're going to do 2 different runs when that condition is met. The first one is a print run. Okay, so we're going to output the PPML, which is for a fiery device, right? And we're going to put it in this folder, and we're going to use an in position. That's this checkbox. Now, at the same exact time, we're going to do an archive run. Now, an archive run, we're going to output to a PDF. We're going to put 1 record in each file. And then in the template, there is a rule that says when you create the output file, call it this field out of the database. This field just so happens to be the account number. So it's going to create a subdirectory full of PDFs that are named, account number 1234.pdf, account number 67893.pdf. And, that could be used to send it out in an email or to be put into an archive system. Okay? So just another way of automation. And then the last piece of automation that we're going to talk about today is true programmatic integration, right? We're integrating Fusion Pro Server to some system that you may have. Now, there are a lot of different systems out there that Fusion Pro Server hook into. One of them is a web to print. You might have a document that you make available online to clients through a web to print type system that you want them to be able to proof. Well, if that's the case, you create the template. Within Fusion Pro, we enable you to create an HTML form. Basically an automated process. So, make it out of the current data, it picks all the fields, allows you to configure them. And then when we say OK, it'll bring up a HTML document had I hit the preview button. Sometimes operators make mistakes. Hopefully Matt's not still listening. So current data and preview the form. We'll always use Google for this. And then it will create the input form Now, of course, we would have cleaned all this up, but a true programmer would take a look at the source of this and then use that source, this information that's in here, to create the form in your web to print system. Okay, so just a simple little process, and then that gives everything you need. The last thing to do is to create the button that says submit it to Fusion Pro Server. And when your client checks the proof button, it submits it. They get an image back so that they can see it. And then when they check out, typically another call is made to Fusion Pro Server to do things in a high-res fashion. First time during proofing sometimes, or a lot of the times, it's done in low-res. Okay? Okay. So that's one use case. Another use case is that you have an accounting system that is going to make a call to Fusion Pro Server. Hey, Fusion Pro Server, use this document that is in the database, right? So one of these documents that was over here, the high volume letter, or it could be a statement maybe. It can be a lot of different things, whatever is in here. And again, you're programmatically calling this document in. And once more, we have a whole host of APIs. Again, this is a programming thing. So you would need a programmer, an integrator, so to speak. But we have that capability. And we have a lot of customers that use it this way to completely automate programmatically their workflow. Okay, with that, we'll go on to questions. I thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn this back over to Matt.
All right, thank you, John. Right now, I don't see any questions in the queue. John, I don't know if there's anything maybe that you thought of throughout the presentation that you might want to cover, but again, there's no questions in there. So do you have anything that maybe you forgot about that you might want to touch on, or did you get to everything?
I think we got it all.
Okay.
And listen, I'm always available. Everybody got an email that has my contact information, and if you would like to talk about your specific use case, give me a call. I can walk you through. Whether we're talking something that might be easily done at the desktop level, or maybe something that needs to be done at the server level. All right. So we can help you through all of that.
Perfect. Well, thank you, John. And yeah, just a reminder, this is being sent to everyone. If you do have any questions, please reach out to John. But I want to thank everyone again for attending today, and I hope everyone has a good remainder of their day. Thank you again.
Take care, everyone. Bye.